Welcome into No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. I'm your host, Joe Zolo, and this week we are back with three more teams for our Look Inside series: the New Orleans Saints, Tennessee Titans, Cleveland Browns. Really just knocking on the door of just some of the best teams in the NFL, with arguably, two teams with the greatest quarterback rooms in the Saints and Titans. So we're really getting there, folks. We're almost there. Joining us for the second time, I believe, on NPI, and ironically, talked about the Browns last year with us, Mr. Eric Moody of ESPN is joining us today. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Welcome into No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. I am your host, Joe Zolo. As always, Joshua, Rian, and for the second time in, I feel like probably almost 2 years, 1 year on the dot, Mr. Eric Moody. How are you, sir?
No, doing pretty good. We got a lot of NFL news today. Stephon Diggs is apparently happy or content. You know, he's back, so that I'll say that national drama is over. But no, things are great. You know, I'm excited for Denver Nuggets fans to get that NBA championship. You know, Las Vegas has a hockey Stanley Cup championship, and we're on the precipice, at least getting closer, I would say, to the NFL Madness training camp, preseason, and of course fantasy football. But I'm excited to be back here and to talk some fantasy football. It is going to be fun, gentlemen.
But the lead story is, what is LeBron's legacy? How does this affect LeBron's legacy? That's the real story.
I love the timeline on the Diggs turmoil where the coach throws him under the bus and says he's concerned. The agent's like, he's in Buffalo. He's already met with the coach. And then the next day, the coach is like, he did everything he was supposed to do. We're happy to have him. And it's like, what?
Right?
Don't believe anything until you see it. Don't believe anything until it's on video. Then, oh God, brutal. Okay, the Saints. What to think of the New Orleans Saints? Right, very well. First place contenders in the NFC South. But then again, who isn't a first place contender in that division? 7-10 last year. Same coach, same offense. Dennis Allen, same head coach. Pete Carmichael, same offensive coordinator. Your starting offense, presumably, consists of Derek Carr. I'm pretty sure his job is safe. I'm just going to
One would hope.
We all thought it was safe last year, so
I don't know. Did you see those Jake Haener rookie pictures? I don't think it's safe.
Jake Haener looking pretty good. Running backs: Alvin Kamara?
Question mark.
I have Alvin down below, like in the Chipmunks when the dad's calling for Alvin because he can't be found because he's in jail. Yeah, that's why that's.
You didn't get that initially, Ryan? Come on.
I did not. I didn't understand what he was going for there.
That's okay. It's deep. We're deep humor. Jamaal Williams, RB2, very well could be the RB1 to start the year, and then Kendre Miller, who, if Jamaal Williams is seeing a lot of time, I guarantee you Kendre Miller is probably going to see a lot of splits with Jamaal Williams, just obviously up there in age, tread on the tires. Kendre Miller has no tread. He's a rookie. Your receivers: Chris Olave, wide receiver 1 in year 2. Michael Thomas, maybe?
Question mark.
Question mark. You know who's not a question mark? Rashid Shaheed in his 3.9 speed. I love Rashid Shaheed. And then tight end 1, Juwan Johnson. My guys, Ryan and Moody both have Chris Olave. Josh is Juwan Johnson. I will start with Olave because obviously a lot of people, I don't know if it's been more recently, but there was obviously a giant thing of, there was always the Madden curse and the sophomore slump. So Chris Olave going into his sophomore season. Moody, you do not see a slump coming from Chris Olave.
I do not. I'm very excited to talk about Chris Olave. Can I talk about Chris Olave right now?
Of course, yes.
Okay. All right. So you look at Chris Olave last year. Like finished with 72 receptions for 1,042 receiving yards. That was actually the second best rookie season in Saints franchise history. So you talked about Derek Carr and whether or not his job is safe. So you have that instability at quarterback last season, obviously hurt Chris Olave's fantasy value. So Olave, when you dive a little bit deeper, he was one of 9 wide receivers last season who accumulated 1,500 air yards, had a 20% or greater target share, and 2+ yards per route run. Now you think about some of the other receivers, because you're probably thinking, who are the other receivers that he's aligned with here? Justin Jefferson is one, CeeDee Lamb, A.J. Brown, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, who we talked about a moment ago, Amari Cooper, and Terry McLaurin. So we talked about Derek Carr. It's huge to have Carr in a New Orleans Saints jersey. Ranked 5th in deep ball pass attempts last season. Olave had 29 deep targets, which were the 4th most in the league. And Carr has obviously been around the NFL for a while. He's played at a pretty high level most of the time. You mentioned it about Olave. Hey, he's going to be the Saints' number 1 guy. Looks like it's some pretty good chemistry between Olave and Carr. Now, let's talk about Michael Thomas. It's like the elephant in the room. But let's be real here, gentlemen. Does anybody have confidence that he'll play every game this season? So I think the stage is set for Olave to have a second-year breakout. So
I don't have confidence he plays a game this season, just based off of previous.
I was hoping that's where Moody wasn't
3
going
last year. Let's maybe that good ankle can sneak him in for a game and a half this year.
I'm pretty sure collectively we've played more games in the last 4 years than Michael Thomas. So
it feels that way.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with you. If there's no Michael Thomas, there's no Alvin Kamara. Who the hell are they throwing to on the outside? Now, go ahead, Ryan.
We've been talking. Moody touched on it. I feel like we brought it up for the last 3 years running that Derek Carr might be one of the most underappreciated deep ball throwers in the NFL. Every year we point out how accurate he is on the deep ball, how efficient he is on the deep ball. And the thing with Olave, he did something I like to look at, and that is over 14 yards per catch plus at least a 60% catch rate. And only 10 receivers in the NFL did that. And it was mostly the names that Moody was just mentioning off a few moments ago. He's in the right company, but with the added effect of getting an upgrade at quarterback. So that's why I'm not worried about a sophomore slump. Is they should be throwing the ball. He has an upgrade at quarterback, and he's already shown he can do special things that only 10 other guys in the league can do.
Feels like Derek Carr is a less appreciated Matthew Stafford, because Stafford's deep ball was half the time it was fuck it, Calvin Johnson's down there.
He's down there somewhere.
He's down there somewhere.
Yeah.
All Derek Carr has to do is fuck it, Olave's down there somewhere.
Fuck it, right?
He'll catch it.
But the thing yes, Matt Stafford technically played in a literal, completely irrelevant for a relevant football team for a while, but it's not like Detroit wasn't a football city or wasn't a city where it's has fans, want to succeed. Felt like Oakland was just kind of irrelevant for a while. They were just kind of out there. There's the 49ers, there's other teams out there. It felt like they were kind of irrelevant, especially in that division. So it felt like Derek Carr was kind of left out there, where Stafford kind of had that, but they both have very good deep ball. They both can shit whip the ball 70 yards down the field, just like Josh Allen. Just sadly, Josh Allen's actually goes on a literal frozen rope, whereas theirs has a little more arc to it.
Varies a little bit.
But I feel like that's something there. But something Derek Carr loves to do, Josh, is throw to his tight ends. And we talked about this on the tight end free agency show when Juwan Johnson was a restricted free agent. I believe he was one of the 2 that we had mentioned on there. But I know I had mentioned it on that, is if they bring back Juwan Johnson, or they match the offer that somebody gives them, Juwan Johnson should have a pretty good year, especially if Michael Thomas is not playing. He is the second option in the passing game.
Yeah, you look at this wide receiver core for the Saints. Outside of Olave, it's just question mark after question mark after question mark.
Mm-hmm.
We mentioned Michael Thomas and the ankle and the health. Rashid Shaheed, nice pop games last year. He's got the deep speed, but can he be a 90-plus target second option to really take some pressure off of Chris Olave? With Juwan Johnson, he's a big frame, big body, 6'4", 231. What was Darren Waller? 6'6", 255, guy with speed. I know there's a 20-pound difference and 2 inches in height, but these are still big guys.
2 inches
that,
is a lot.
I was gonna say
I mean, yeah, I get it, but wait.
Yo, guys, so like Cole Beasley, who's 5'9", 186, like he's.
But you know what? There are plenty of slot corners in the NFL that are only 5'9", 5'10", so 2 inches isn't going to make that much difference there.
I mean,
I digress. But Juwan Johnson the last couple of years has gone from 22 targets to 65 targets. He has 11 touchdowns total over the last few years. Those 2 big breakout years for Darren Waller, 2019, 2020, in total 12 touchdowns. This is, and you know, he was a main target for the Raiders for Derek Carr before they truly got a legitimate wide receiver 1. This year, Juwan Johnson doesn't need to be a legitimate wide receiver 1 because that's what Chris Olave showed he could do last year. If he can be the number 1 guy, all Johnson has to do is step up and continue to progress in a tight end role, which, let's not forget, this is what he's been transitioning to the last 3 years because he was a wide receiver at the University of Tennessee before coming into the NFL. So he's still learning a new position, but he's not learning how to be an inline blocker at tight end. They're saying split in the slot, go out wide, go catch footballs. That's all you got to do. And he's averaged over 12 yards per reception the last couple of years, right on par with everything that Darren Waller did for Derek Carr in New Orleans, or excuse me, in Las Vegas with the Raiders. Derek Carr is going to see Darren Waller when he's looking at Juwan Johnson. And for the price that you can get Juwan Johnson at, he's going at tight end 18 at 152 overall right now.
Oh, free in a 10-team league.
Free.
he's free.
Yeah.
He's free.
Are you anticipating then that he will play primarily slot? Because I just feel like they gave Foster Moreau a lot of money. And I'm interested to see, are you envisioning then Moreau as a more traditional tight end and Johnson as a slot?
Exactly what he did in Vegas. I mean, he was basically an inline guy. They traded Adam Troutman to Denver, so they need somebody to be that now inline guy. You can pay Moreau whatever the hell you want to pay him. It's not going to matter. He's not going to be out there running, 100 and some odd routes and, getting that many targets every year. That's not the case. That's Juwan Johnson's role in this offense.
Yeah. They also have Jesse James chilling at 4th behind Taysom Hill on their tight end depth chart. So technically 3rd, but another very good inline blocking guy. Granted, he's getting older in age, but as a tight end blocker, you don't really need to be the youngest spring
Lewis
chicken.
Doing it till he was 39.
Mercedes Lewis is a dog. All right. I love Mercedes Lewis. And I wanted to bring up the Foster Moreau thing because I did see that. And when you think about it, if Michael Thomas isn't in there, what's to say they don't run Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, Juwan Johnson, Foster Moreau, Jamaal Williams? What's to say that doesn't happen? Or you just take Shaheed out, put Olave in there, and you're running Jesse James, Foster Moreau, Juwan Johnson, Jamaal Williams. Just
Taysom Hill at quarterback.
Taysom Hill.
You're running jumbo tight end packages there.
and then Eno Benjamin, the RB4, comes into the mix. And then Sir Roderick Thompson Jr. makes the roster.
Going right down the depth chart, aren't you?
I just saw that name. He was a rookie. I saw that name pop up. I had to mention it, of course. Okay. So Moody, big Dynasty guy. So we're doing Josh put this in here. I don't look at the show sheet until right now. I did look at it when I was putting it there. I was like, oh, that's a good one. Okay. So trading for, trading away. So trading for, you normally teams that are probably looking to win now. Trading away, you're probably looking to garner draft picks, unload a bad player or someone who's at the end of their rope to try and look towards the future. Who are you trading for? Who are you trading away here for the Saints?
Yeah, and I wanted to choose a name of a player like trading for that's not like obvious. Like everyone wants Chris Olave at this point, but yeah. I was smiling kind of ear to ear as you were talking about Juwan Johnson, because I thought one thing that was really fascinating is that I'm like, Johnson requested film of Julian Edelman to prepare for his role as a kind of slot receiver / tight end hybrid for this upcoming season.
Josh, can we get the size comparison on Juwan Johnson and Julian Edelman real quick? Can I get those numbers? Because me in my head, they're the same person. Yeah. Go ahead, Moody. I had.
All right, no, that's fine. I'm chuckling. I'm imagining like a picture of Juwan Johnson, a picture of Julian Edelman. But
I'm 10-198, by the way.
Same person.
What I would say, though, is that what makes this really intriguing is that we all remember Hunter Renfrow's success in like a similar role with the Raiders back in 2021. So I'm very optimistic about Johnson. I'm like, everyone kind of hinted at this. He saw significant an increase, I would say, in usage. Like he had, 65 targets, 508 receiving yards, 7 touchdowns. Finishes the tight end 15, as we talked about. Very productive when given like targets. And you kind of hinted at this with Derek Carr and Darren Waller. You know, Carr tends to target big athletic tight ends. And so Johnson's size and skill set make him an intriguing option. And so that's someone I would trade for. Now, the obvious person to trade away, which is going to be really difficult right now given the circumstances, is Alvin Kamara. And I'm like, you're looking at someone who's facing a potential multi-game suspension. It's obviously going to impact his fantasy value. And we mentioned earlier in the show about the Saints drafting Miller, who's likely Kamara's long-term replacement. And I would say my biggest concern, just looking back at last season, was that Kamara's passing game role, like without former head coach Sean Payton, was very dismal. Like from week 13 on, Kamara didn't catch more than 2 passes in a game, which is obviously a significant decline from his previous season. So he's a difficult player to trade right now. So I think fantasy managers, if they want to move on and not necessarily play chicken, is that you may just have to accept whatever trade you can get for Kamara just to move on. But it's not looking good right now.
God, I love the Kamara bashing. Oh.
Well, I was gonna say, Joe, I know you hate Kamara.
If only someone was saying this going into last year.
Well, you're gonna hate what I'm about to say. Listening to what Moody just said, I'm like, should I just go out and throw lowball offers out for Kamara right now?
Oh, like, I would do that too. I'd 100% like, hey, can I get him for like a 4th round pick? Why not? Why not?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. 897 rushing yards on the ground, 490 through the air.
That's the thing with Kamara. He's so much better with less touches because it drives up his efficiency. In the last 2 years, they've used him more really as like a bell cow type. I mean, he's averaged 18 and a half attempts per game and 14.9 attempts per game the last 2 years. Every year before that, he never topped 12.9 attempts per game.
Yeah, and
he's
his
just
yards per
better.
carry were amazing.
Yeah, and he's just better as a, let somebody else come in and do the dirty work and just, get me out in space and let me do my thing. Because, like, you look at his last 2 years, 9 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns, hands down the 2 worst touchdown production years of his career.
Well, last year, didn't he score them all in one game? Or was that the year before?
He scored 3 of them in one game against the Raiders. So he scored 3 of them in one game against the Raiders.
And look, that brought Derek Carr over. That was a deciding factor, I'm sure.
Derek Carr was like, you know what? I'm going to go over there. He might go to jail, but that's fine. That's fine. Hey, if I'm Derek Carr, I'm taking that money too. I'm not mad about it. So, my IDP player Marcus May. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't really like a lot of people on this defense.
Such an old defense.
Super old. I want Cam Jordan to prove me wrong because Cam Jordan is, I think, 34 or 35.
12 years in.
Yeah, he is old. He's still productive, which is crazy. He's a fantastic football player. Fantasy, he's hot and cold. But last year, still very productive. Last 3 years, been productive. Demario Davis, really good. Old. He's just old. Marcus May is fairly young. I think he's in his late 20s. And even Tyrann Mathieu back there, he's getting up there in age. So there's no real great players fantasy IDP-wise. But the sleeper, this to me is kind of shocking that Jamaal Williams is the RB 43.
Yeah.
That doesn't feel right.
I've been looking at that for a while. It seems like we're banking on regression.
Okay, but
or Kamara playing, who knows, right?
But even then, like,
doesn't this scream Adam Thielen?
Dude, like 14th
can't score those
round
touchdowns again.
So this is where I want to go for the would you rather. Moody already knows the game. He's been on the show before. Moody, in case you forgot what the game would you rather is, we list the player in question and then ask would you rather have the other guy. I know you played it once before.
Revolutionary.
Yeah, you probably never played it outside this show. You probably never heard
Not
of
at
it.
all.
No, never. No opinion columns at ESPN that have ever been written on would you rather. Never. Only on this show.
No.
Okay. So, Jamaal Williams, RB43. I'm going to go 41 down to 46 because Kendre Miller is RB44. So, they are going, people are just 1-2 if you, I mean,
neck and neck.
They're neck and neck. So, I'm going to skip 44 because that's Kendre Miller, and we'll just go down to 45 and 46. So, I'll start at 41, though. Khalil Herbert or Jamaal Williams, Moody?
Yeah, I would rather have Jamaal Williams, actually.
Ryan?
Jamaal Williams. And
Josh.
I'm someone who is buying
Khalil Herbert. I want the guy that's in the higher potent rushing offense.
Yeah,
And one that's actually going to average 5+ yards per carry, because that's what Khalil Herbert can do. Jamaal
Can
Williams,
he, though?
not so much.
Can
Jamaal
he?
Williams has never averaged more than 4.3 yards per carry.
Khalil Herbert's never had 25 fucking touchdowns.
I was just gonna say Khalil Herbert and his 9 fantasy points per game last year.
That's okay.
Jamaal Williams.
You look at Jamaal Williams. He was nothing of note before last year, and turned that into a big contract.
I don't know. You've always
stretch.
been a Jamaal Williams hater, and I don't.
He
get
has
that.
30 career touchdowns. 30. 17 of them came last year.
Great.
One good year.
Yeah.
That's why he's RB43 right now.
Okay, so in Josh's defense, while I was just making fun of Khalil Herbert's 9 fantasy points per game, just about every season to this point, Jamaal Williams has averaged 9 fantasy points per game. So there's something to it.
Give me the guy that's going to be in an offense where they run the football 500+ times. There's more opportunity share there.
Jerick McKinnon or Jamaal Williams, Moody?
You know what? Still Jamaal Williams for me.
Ryan?
I can't give up on Clyde Edwards-Helaire, so I'm rooting Jamaal Williams.
Oh my God, you are such a you are whipped, Josh.
Pass.
Wide receiver.
Yeah, right. Give me a wide receiver.
I mean, hey, what are you looking for a bench running back? Touchdown upside.
I mean, you could make the case that Jerick McKinnon has that. I mean,
Jerick McKinnon was
Jerick McKinnon was nothing until week 13.
Okay, so he was the RB1 throughout the playoffs. Where was Jamaal Williams in the fantasy playoffs? He wasn't winning you championships at that point.
He got you there.
Yeah,
well, he may have got you there, but getting there doesn't matter if you don't win it.
He avoided the. He avoided the.
You didn't have to
dinner.
choose last year. You could have had both, and apparently you can have both this year.
Yeah,
you just take one in the 14th and one in the 15th.
Now this is where it's like I feel like it's obvious here. Moody, Jamaal Williams, or Jalen Warren.
Yeah, it's obviously Jamaal Williams there.
I just want to hear if we can hear Josh say Jamaal Williams one time.
He's been a perennial Jamaal Williams hater.
I know, that's what I'm saying. So it's J. Will for me, Avi.
In this case, I would probably take Jamaal Williams.
Probably.
Okay.
It's like, but if I drafted Najee Harris earlier in the
in this case, I would take Jamaal Williams.
Let's throw another one out there. It's like, all right, Josh. It's like Tyler Algier or Jamaal Williams.
Oh, Tyler Algier all day.
I'm also taking Tyler Algier. I will also take Tyler Algier in that instance. Bijan needs a break at some point. That's all I'm saying. He needs a break at some point. And then the last, it's Jamaal Williams or Tank Bigsby. My point is Jamaal Williams is going too low at this point because he very well could be the lead back there.
Yeah, that's exactly. It's very obviously, and I think ADP is going to shift heavily as we get closer into draft season because a lot of the folks who only pay attention from August to December are going to remember Jamaal Williams dropping 17 touchdowns last year, and we're going to see that jump up. So.
Hold on. Yeah. We haven't talked. You guys did talk Broncos. I don't know if you brought this up. Samaje Perine is the RB33.
To the moon.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
I feel like that's going to change, unfortunately. But yeah, Samaje P. Ryan. I'm Team P. Ryan.
I think Denver training camp might be probably the most interesting to pay attention to this year. I won't be surprised.
Especially that running back room. Yeah,
they haven't announced Hard Knocks yet, have they? That would be an interesting one for Hard Knocks. So
that would be. Oh, Sean Payton would eat that shit up.
No, they don't. They don't nominate teams that have a new head coach. So Denver wouldn't even be up for. I think there was only 4 teams that were eligible, and I know the Jets were one of them. Mm-hmm. But I know Saleh was like, no, I do not want to be on Hard Knocks. Aaron Rodgers on Hard Knocks, I want all of that.
You're telling me Robert Saleh is holding us out from the deep cave retreat talks with Aaron Rodgers?
Darkness retreat. Darkness.
You know. HBO wants the Jets.
I'm relatively sure that Aaron Rodgers will be suspended if there's a Hard Knocks, just based on everything he'll admit on tape.
That would be something. Okay, next up, very well could have the number 1 pick in this upcoming draft, the Tennessee Titans.
And they still need a quarterback.
Currently, they have Ryan Tannehill and Mayo Levis. I mean...
And technically still Malik Willis.
Remember when Malik Willis was going to go 10th overall to the Steelers? Remember those days?
Oh, at one point,
I do.
At one point, he was floated 9th to Detroit or whatever it was.
Hey, you know what? Dan Campbell, great job. Great job. You might have fucked up this year's draft, but great job. Great job. We'll see. Felt like he put a lot into Jahmyr Gibbs.
They went boring this year. Well, Gibbs was good, but then after that, not my favorite picks.
Yeah.
Running backs. It's Derrick Henry and nobody else matters. But in case Derrick Henry gets hurt, it's Tajay Spears. That's it. You don't need to know much more about that. I love how we're not even listing a third wide receiver for this team.
What's the point? I almost didn't even put a wide receiver 2 because I don't think they'll matter.
I was like, there's not even a third receiver here. This feels kind of light. The depth chart feels kind of light here.
It's Kyle Phillips if you really care.
I was just gonna say the Kyle Phillips disrespect.
Yeah, don't hate on the 5th round pick, Kyle Phillips.
Love him.
Wide receiver 1, Treylon Burks. Is he though? Wide receiver 2, Nick Westbrook-Akine, who was cut his rookie year of camp, correct? I'm not like, am I making that up?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. Wide receiver 2, Nick Westbrook-Akine. Normally like wide receiver 5s and 6s on most other teams, but
this is bad.
The true fantasy asset, tight end 1, Chigoziem Okonkwo. I don't care what happens with this team. There are 2 draftable assets on this team. One is Derrick Henry. The other is Chigoziem Okonkwo.
Treylon Burks is draftable at his cost.
No.
Yeah.
Nope. I refuse. Draftable. I refuse. There's one pass catcher on this team, and it is Chigoziem Okonkwo. No,
he's definitely the best value, but
200 targets.
You can still make a case that Burks is a screaming value where he's going right now.
That's what I'm saying. He's very cheap, as I recall.
Chigoziem Okonkwo will break all receiving records this year.
Heard it here, folks.
With the tandem or tricycle of Ryan Tannehill, Will Levis, and Malik Willis throwing him the football.
Tricycle.
The tricycle of quarterbacks.
That's a good line.
I like it.
They're all flat tires. Let's get that straight. It's not a good tricycle to be on. They're all flat tires. But it's a tricycle, and it's built, and there's wheels. There's just no air in them. So do it that way you will. All right, my guys. Moody, you got Henry. We're not even good. It's Derrick Henry. It's fucking, he's 900 pounds and runs a 4.4. How do you stop him? And he also gets the ball 35 times a game. So it doesn't really matter. Moody, is there anything else you'd like to add on Derrick Henry?
Yeah, I think what's really making Henry like a really great value, in my opinion, especially in some drafts, is that I'm like, people feel like, you mentioned about a tricycle. I think people imagine Derrick Henry like a truck, whose like wheels are about to fall off since he's 29 years old.
Or at any point, yeah.
Yeah, but here's the thing about Henry. You mentioned he's like 900 pounds of pain, but I'm like he's built different. He's not like other running backs. So I think he could be the closest thing to Adrian Peterson that we've seen since, well, Adrian Peterson. Like Henry exceeded expectations last year, despite concerns about age is going to catch up with him. Like he finishes the RB3 in PPR formats, finished with 382 touches. Only player with more was Josh Jacobs with 393. And you look at this for history. If you go back and look over the last 25 seasons, like the only player with more 50-yard or more or longer yard touchdown runs, more than Henry, who had 11, was Adrian Peterson at 16. So we talked about the quarterback situation. They had injuries to the quarterback situation last year. Offensive line was messed up, but Henry still thrived. Plus, he had a career high in receptions last year. So kind of to bring all that together, I think in fantasy drafts this year, like fantasy managers are still skeptical, because of Henry's age. But the Titans' offensive line was, in my opinion, one of the worst in the league last year. They brought in a new offensive line coach and they made some additions via free agency in the NFL draft. So I think if you're like in a fantasy draft, like pairing like Henry, like with an early round like wide receiver, like if you're drafting kind of near the turn, I think that could be like an excellent strategy. So I just think he's kind of overlooked right now.
Henry's currently going RB8, which is middle of the third round.
Yeah, it's insane.
Which feels like a steal. What this is? I'm sorry, this is kind of fucking nuts. Derrick Henry, Ramondre Stevenson, Josh Jacobs are all mid-third round picks.
Well, Joe, this is kind of what we talk about.
That's where it's the wide receivers getting pushed up.
It's the wide receivers getting pushed up, Joe, because for drafters like you and me who like running back early still, this draft is setting up really, really well for us. So like, Joe, I know you're going to go running back. I'm likely to go, and anybody who drafts with me knows it's Kelsey in round 1. From what I'm understanding at this point, Jonathan Taylor in round 2, and then you're going to let me get Derrick Henry in round 3. Just give me the prize money at the draft because that's ridiculous.
Ryan, I could realistically get my pick of McCaffrey, Eckler, or Bijan, wrap and get Jonathan Taylor, and then get Ramondre Stevenson.
Yeah.
What the fuck are we doing? Go ahead, Moody.
I got something that I would add to that. I'm thinking about, because you're talking about Henry's like ADP right now.
Yeah.
I think it'll obviously end up changing. I'm thinking back because we ended up doing on Tuesday we did like a mock draft, 12 team, half PPR, our first like kind of ESPN kind of mock draft for like the summer. And looking back at where Derrick Henry ended up going, I'm like, he was like the RB5. He was drafted 10th overall. So I think that could end up becoming like the sweet spot. But just imagine, I'm like, if you have a late first round pick, you draft Derrick Henry, say 10th or 11th overall, then you come back in round 2 and say draft someone like CeeDee Lamb or Garrett Wilson or Amon-Ra St. Brown. I don't know about you guys, but that sounds good to me.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Even in the round 2 part of it, for someone like me who wants to walk out of my draft with Travis Kelce, with guys like Derrick Henry and Jonathan Taylor falling to round 2, that just brings tears to my eyes because that's exactly what I need to build the team I want to build. So.
Well, I mean, granted, ACL injury coming off it, but Breece Hall is a 4th round pick currently.
Yeah.
That's he's nuts. One that's going to be interesting because I've heard a lot of people not know what we have out of Breece Hall, and it's like he was so good when he played last year, and expectations have to be that he's going to get better in an offense that actually has a threat at quarterback. So.
All right, I'm going to kind of take us down a little bit of a rabbit hole, Joe. I promise that we'll get back on track, but this kind of got the wheels turning. So, okay, so you're thinking about your drafting, so I'll kind of. And for those who I tweeted about my team like on Twitter from this mock draft, there's also like an article on ESPN.com, /fantasy, where you can see it. But I'm like, if you're someone who's like, I want to be, a robust RB guy, RB, say RB, even go 4 times. Yep. And so I'm like, here are the running backs I was able to land. So I had the second pick. So I went Christian McCaffrey. Ended up with Najee Harris and Joe Mixon. And so just think about it. Hey, if that's something that makes you happy, for what we're talking about here, think about the possibilities, not exactly those running backs, Joe.
I was going to say, Joe, you did not say names that make Joe happy. I think Joe Mixon might be one of the most undervalued guys in fantasy right now.
But I'm just saying, it's like the opportunities there, I'm like, to land some really good running backs if you want to go like RB3, where you're going 3 straight running backs. Anyway, I digress. Joe, I'll let you get us back on track, and perhaps I'll talk about a player that doesn't put a grimace on his face. What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, I think it might get a little better.
Yeah. So, well, it's funny because I'm just looking at these overalls here right now, and if I go my 3 running back strategy with the current ADP, and again, it will change. Even in this past week, last week's show, Jackson Smith and Jigba was like wide receiver, like 29. He's now down to 34. So things are starting to adjust themselves, but.
Well, let me just throw this out real quick. I think more and more redraft teams are actually starting to draft right now, which still feels early. I'm in, and our good buddy Kevin Coleman likes to make fun of me for this. I'm in a bunch of like Facebook fantasy football groups, and people are asking redraft questions like, should I make this trade? I'm like, how are you making redraft trades already? How do you have your redraft team already?
If you're in a redraft league, draft the weekend of Labor Day. Or literally Thursday night just before the game.
So I am fine with drafting early, as long as your waivers are open and you can adjust your team with all the news that happens in the preseason.
Nope. Last time I drafted early, I drafted Jordy Nelson. He tore his ACL. He's my
Your one bad moment means it's bad for everyone. Get out
100%.
of here. Move on.
100%. 100%. Well, what I want to say was, if I get 3 running backs and then get Keenan Allen in the middle of the 4th round, where he's going right now as a wide receiver 1.
That's the Joe and Ryan special, right?
That's the dream. That's the dream.
Yeah.
So, Moody, you're not trading anyone away from the Titans, and I think you mostly just made that decision based off of nobody wants anyone from the Titans. So you are trying to trade for Treylon Burks. Why is that?
Yeah, because I know Ryan kind of mentioned this. It's like Burks is just someone I just believe who's undervalued. So the word on the street is obviously suggesting that Burks continues to be Ryan Tannehill's favorite target at OTAs. When he throws the ball, he has to throw to someone. But I'm like, you look at Burks like last year, he had 8 receptions of 20 or more yards. You know, you've got Bobby Trees, Robert Woods, whatever you want to call him. Like, he's no longer there.
Yep.
I think Burks is someone that I can see accumulating anywhere from like 110 to 120 targets from Tannehill, even though the Titans, are a run-heavy team. I just think now is the optimal time to trade for him because there's not a lot of buzz about him in redraft. And I think some of the dynasty buzz from late last season has kind of dwindled down. So that's kind of my rationale on Burks. But I'm very high on him. I'm a huge fan of his game, and can't wait to see him break out. So I think we may see that in 2023.
Can I ask, is he the favorite target, or it's just like, oh, well, yeah, like there's all these snacks that are here for me, and like 10 of them are expired, and there's one that's like maybe going to expire tomorrow, but the bag hasn't been opened. It's like, okay, I'll have that one. Is that kind of what Treylon Burks is?
You heard it here first. Joe believes that Treylon Burks is a snack. I think Brett Flynn would approve that message.
Wow.
I'm just, I mean, when you said that, he was like, it's Ryan Tannehill's favorite target. I'm like, are there other targets to choose from in the receiver room is my question.
There are, but we haven't even talked about them. You didn't even name them on the show sheet. That tells everyone what they need to know.
You know what? I'll go through the targets for you, right? Just so everyone knows how good this receiver room is, right? Here's the snacks Ryan Tannehill gets to choose from in his pantry when he goes home at night. Kyle Phillips, 5th round pick. Racey McMath, 6th round pick. Colton Dowell, 7th round pick. Chris Moore, unrestricted free agent from Houston. Jacob Copeland, undrafted free agent. Reggie Robertson, undrafted free agent. Mason Kinsey, undrafted free agent. Kearis Jackson, Trayshawn Harrison, Gavin Holmes, undrafted free agents. So he is literally choosing from expired ding-dongs from the 1900s. And then the lone Twinkie that survived the nuclear holocaust, which is Treylon Burks. That is literally what he's choosing from, right?
I think a rough rookie season has moved people so far off of Treylon Burks. And this guy was an asset last year. And now all of a sudden it's like, no,
He's
Ryan
a bum
Tannehill
now.
sucks. Yeah, he's a bum. And it's like, no, that's when you buy a guy. Moody's absolutely right. That is,
I agree.
You should have if you're in Dynasty, you should have offers out for Treylon Burks. Today, I will have them probably before the show is over.
Yeah, I had a lot of Treylon Burks for his rookie season. I've kept him in all those leagues except one where I traded him in a deal to go get Tyreek Hill. Like,
fair enough.
I mean, which I'm fine with, but like that's a guy that I'm actively looking to land, not just in Dynasty, but also in redraft. And to Moody's point, like, again, they're outside of Chikezima Okonkwo, there is nobody else that's really a viable target in this passing game. Now, I don't think they're going to throw the football very much. I only have Burks projected for, I think, 118 targets. But when you look at Tim Kelly, who's now the offensive coordinator in this offense, the wide receiver one in his offenses the last 3 years where he called plays, 28.09% target share, 21.79, and 24.54%. He will key in on the wide receiver one in this offense. There is going to be plenty of opportunity share for Treylon Burks if he is healthy all year.
Cool. Yeah, no, and then where he is currently sitting is I want to make that clear. It's more on the quarterback, less on the player of skill. Because Treylon Burks he had one really great diving catch that I can remember last year. I think
it was against Philly.
Yeah,
he caught the ball and then just like left the game after that.
Yeah, got knocked out or something like that. Yeah, his skill is great. It's just, is Ryan Tannehill going to throw him 17 hospital balls this year? Is the question. So. He's currently sitting wide receiver 36. At this point, you're probably looking to draft him as your second wide receiver if you're waiting, third wide receiver. That's probably where he's sitting.
I was going to say he could end up being your fourth or fifth if you're going the whole zero RB.
Well, if you go early, 100, if you go receiver early, he's like riding your bench, which if you have a wide receiver one riding your bench, that's a pretty good case scenario. Doesn't matter who it is. If it's the top wide receiver in the offense, it's pretty solid. So I'm going to not do Jackson Smith and Jigba because he's the third receiver in his offense compared to the first receiver in the other offense. And I imagine nobody is drafting Jackson Smith and Jigba over Treylon Burks.
No.
Okay, beautiful. So I will actually jump up to the two in that offense because they are going one after the other. Tyler Lockett at wide receiver 33 or Treylon Burks wide receiver 36. Moody.
Yeah, between those two, we're playing Would You Rather again, right?
Would you rather? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I would have to go with Tyler Lockett.
Okay, Ryan.
Yeah,
Lockett, and I'm going to go back. I would take Njigba over.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I think I don't see the Geno Smith regression that others do.
I don't either. It's just more so he's third behind Lockett and Metcalf.
We'll see for. I think they're all three going to be on the field quite often.
Sure. I agree with that. Josh.
I have Lockett literally one spot ahead of Treylon Burks in my projection, so I'll take Lockett.
There you go. Mike Evans or Treylon Burks? Moody.
Yeah, Mike Evans.
Ryan.
Evans.
Josh.
I'll be the odd man out. I'm going to go Burks. I do not trust that Tampa Bay offense this year at all.
But you trust Ryan Tannehill.
I was about to say.
There's multiple people to throw to with Tampa. You have a Chris Godwin there. There is no Chris Godwin for a Treylon Burks. He's going to get all the targets.
What do you mean? Reggie Robertson Jr.? No, it is fair. In
fairness, I trust Ryan Tannehill more than Baker Mayfield or Kyle Trask. So
this is
I'm an idiot who just falls for Baker Mayfield hook, line, and sinker every single time. So I'm probably wrong here. But first of all, I'm a Mike Evans guy through and through. Like he's up there with Keenan Allen for me.
I will go Mike Evans as well. It's crazy. He's never had anything less than 1,000 yards.
Yep.
He's
Only
going
player
wide
in
receiver
NFL history.
Wide receiver 35 right now.
Yeah,
and it's not like he's washed up or old. He literally just doesn't have a quarterback.
Well, and the inconsistency
he is getting up
last
there. He
year.
turns 30 this year.
Yeah, and the inconsistency last year killed a lot of any goodwill that Mike Evans had. But let's not forget how many people Mike Evans won their toilet bowl last year and kept them from getting last place in their league.
I'm glad you said won their toilet bowl because if he was starting on your team all year, you did not make the playoffs.
No,
he just kept you from getting last place.
Okay.
I did lose a championship to the Mike Evans 55-point game last year, though.
These next three guys are all going within 5 draft spots of one another with Treylon Burks. Burks is going 70, 71, 73, 74. So they're all going literally one after the other.
A lot of wide receivers going in the 7th and 8th round.
Treylon Burks or Kadarius Toney? Moody.
Yeah, I'll have to go with Kadarius Toney. Just being attached to that Chiefs offense, it's tough for me. But yeah, I'll go with Toney.
Ryan.
I unlike Moody and our buddy Coop from a few weeks ago, I don't like trying to decipher wide receiver rooms, so give me Burks. Like, I don't know what's going on with the Chiefs.
Josh.
I have Toney at wide receiver 26, Burks at 28. Honestly, I would probably draft Burks just because of the uncertainty with the Chiefs, but it is hard to ignore the upside with that Chiefs offense.
Josh,
Toney
I have to ask, how many targets do you have going to Toney? I am terrified.
I only have 97. I basically
Okay.
put him as like a step down from Juju, but with a higher yards per reception.
How many
You
carries?
are far more confident than me. I straight up don't have any wide receiver on the entire Chiefs team over 75 targets. I just have them all.
I have him with 10 rush attempts.
I think you have more than that. I know Sky.
And honestly, I think he probably will, but
I mean, I'm not
first go round. I'm being a little more conservative.
I'm not taking Kadarius Toney. I'm very much drafting Treylon Burks. Treylon Burks or Jordan Addison? Moody.
You know what? I would actually go with Jordan Addison here. Vikings a very pass heavy team. You got to love the favorable coverage that Addison will end up getting playing opposite of Justin Jefferson.
He's going to get the 5th safety on the depth chart.
Yeah, it's just
great coverage.
Yeah, it's going to be insane. Yeah, I'll go with Addison.
Ryan.
Addison.
Josh.
Lots of love with Addison, but I'm still going to take a true wide receiver one there in Burks.
Jordan Addison all the way. Absolutely all
I
the way.
love Jordan Addison.
He is going to
I told Josh, as I was like digging more into my projections and digging more into these offenses, I know I was just defending JSN, but I was ready in Dynasty to move Addison ahead of JSN even. Like I'm loving every bit of the fit, the talent. And Joe, honestly, one of the big things that had me go back and dig in was your weird Jedi comparisons of how Jordan Addison is the next Justin Jefferson because of how everything went down in the draft this year.
Isn't that funny, right?
Yeah.
Also, I keep saying it, and I know I play a lot of the colleges. USC has produced very good wide receivers recently. And granted, yes, he did go to Pitt. I understand that.
Yeah, but he made Kenny Pickett a first-round pick, let's be honest.
He won the Biletnikoff Award. He's pretty fucking good at the game. So, he's good. And then the last one, I still think he is being criminally underdrafted.
Okay.
George Pickens or Treylon Burks?
You want me to answer that one?
Oh, yes, sir.
You know, I'd end up going with Treylon Burks. Like, I like Pickens, but I just still think it's Deontay Johnson is the guy. That's who I think is being really, really overlooked. So it would be much harder for me, Joe, if you did say Deontay Johnson or Treylon Burks. But that's my rationale, briefly.
Okay. Ryan.
I have them right next to each other in my rankings as well. And I've actually, to everyone's surprise, have been cooling on Pickens after being very hot on him earlier in the preseason. I would go with Burks in this situation.
Josh.
Yeah, I have Burks 12 spots higher than Pickens, so give me Burks.
Bro. Dude, keep talking like this because I want George Pickens as my wide receiver 4.
Well, I think you're going to get him. I think you're going to see this when you look at the natural way the draft is going to go, because as Moody said, ADP is going to change greatly, but what I don't think is going to change is we're seeing this natural progression of wide receivers moving to the top half of the draft because of the consistency we saw last year. And so what you're going to see, Joe, is you're going to see a lot of wide receivers early, a lot of running backs in the middle, and then it's going to come back to those wide receivers, which is going to keep Pickens in the middle to back end of that middle part of the draft. I think you're going to be able, I don't know what the ADP is right now. You said somewhere in the 70s.
Wide receiver 39, overall 74.
I won't be surprised if that falls into the 80s and 90s as the draft time rolls around, because you're going to see bigger names. Pickens didn't do, for folks who don't watch the Steelers or watch every bit of snaps last year, Pickens didn't do enough to get his name out there last year. He made that catch, but it was so early in the season. I think you're going to see Pickens as a victim of not having the name. And to go back to Treylon Burks, you're going to see Pickens as a victim of Kenny Pickett at quarterback.
Yeah,
It was.
I'll add something to that quickly. So we talked about Deontay Johnson. We talked about Pickens. Like, I think Johnson's going to be the guy. He's more favorable from an ADP lens. But I'm like, you look at some of the just kind of like projections, some things that I put together. It's like I could see Deontay Johnson having like around like anywhere from like 130 to 135 targets, where it's going to be tough for George Pickens to barely scrape over 100. Because don't forget, not saying he's going to be fantasy relevant, but he is going to be involved. I could easily see Allen Robinson getting anywhere from like 55 to 65 targets. Yep. He's the guy who really hurts George Pickens, in my opinion. People talk constantly about Deontay Johnson, George Pickens. It's really Allen Robinson who's the guy who's siphoning some of the value from those two guys. And I think Pickens.
And don't forget Pat Freiermuth too.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about him
last year. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Well, and I think you have positive touchdown regression coming for Deontay Johnson, because this is a guy who was averaging 6 touchdowns a year coming into that terrible number from last year with putting up the goose egg.
Yeah.
Regression to the mean is a real thing. We saw it with Miles Sanders, and I think we're going to see it again with Deontay Johnson, to where I won't be surprised if we see a massive overcorrection as long as Kenny Pickett improves. And I'm going to put faith in Mike Tomlin and the Steelers, and that they know what they're doing, and that we are going to see improvement from Kenny Pickett.
Mm-hmm.
My sleeper, nobody. I literally wrote nobody in the show sheet. That is what I wrote. Don't draft any of these people.
I'll throw out there, every time I watch him play, I like Nick Westbrook-Akine. I don't know where you would find time to put him on any roster. I like him as a player. I think he plays his ass off. I think he's a great red zone threat. Now, the problem is he's very similar to Treylon Burks. So if Burks is healthy, Burks is going to be that guy for the team. So it's not going to happen, to where Westbrook did his best work when Burks wasn't on the field.
Yeah, I mean, hey, he's going 260th overall.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you're not finding room on your roster for Nick Westbrook-Akine.
After Chosen Anderson and just before Braxton Berrios. So right there in the thick of it with everything. Smushed right in between two Dolphin receivers. And then IDP player note, Jeffrey Simmons, absolute dog. He's so good. Don't draft Kevin Byard. He's a fraud. Jeffrey Simmons is where it's at.
He's a fraud.
Yeah, I don't like Kevin Byard. I think.
So what do you think about Azeez Al-Shahir over there? Because he showed some flashes in San Francisco.
Yeah,
that's about where I am.
Like he showed flashes in San Francisco with Nick Bosa.
That's
and
fair. Yeah.
Like
it's a very
now
very
he comes here.
team.
Yeah, he's got what? Why am I blanking on the other guy? Who's there? Eric Armstead, Nick Bosa.
Yeah.
Fred Warner. It's nobody had to fucking look at you. And
yeah,
now, granted, Jeffrey Simmons is going to get a lot of attention. He's not getting Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Eric Armstead attention because he's one human. He will get double teamed. So Al-Shahir is a very good football player. He is not fantasy relevant at all. I like him as a football player. He's not fantasy relevant at all.
I think there's something to decipher from this when his defensive coordinator leaves for a head coaching job
and doesn't bring him in.
Here hits free agency, and D'Amico Ryans doesn't try to bring him to be an anchor for that defense. Just throwing that out there.
I'm
all right, we got another
very
team.
much into that. Cleveland Browns 7-10. Stefanski, same coach, same offense. More passing volume expected, with the official first full season of Deshaun Watson as the quarterback one. Running back one, Nick Chubb, with absolutely nobody behind him in Jerome Ford, but I know Ryan and I think Moody will probably want to talk about that. Wide receiver one, Amari Cooper. Number two, Elijah Moore. Number three, Donovan Peoples-Jones. Not bad.
It's a nice class.
It's a good little room. It's a good little room.
No, they did really well in upgrading their wide receiver core behind Cooper.
Tight end one, David Njoku. Proved that he was the real deal as a receiver last year. He's very good. My guys, Josh and Ryan. Ryan, you says got to be Chubb, but rooting hard for Jerome Ford. Josh says I stand at full Chubb. Get it? Because wiener jokes. And Moody. Just in case people didn't get it.
Yeah,
Moody, you have Amari Cooper. But we're going to say screw all that because Moody, in your trade for You're saying trade for Jerome Ford, and Ryan put out there he's rooting hard for Jerome Ford. So Moody, why are you trading for Jerome Ford? And is it just because you hate Nick Chubb?
All right, so I'm about to talk about Jerome Ford and Nick Chubb because I think Nick Chubb is someone that you should trade away right now. So I'll try to be as brief as possible here, but you look at Chubb. I'm like, he's been dominant on the field. I'm like, you look at what he's been able to accomplish over the last 3 seasons on a per-game basis. 18.2 touches, 102.7 total yards, 16.3 fantasy points per game. So he's gearing up for his age 27 season. The Browns have him under contract until 2025, but the team does have a potential out in 2024. So we all know about age and running backs, but I'll look at it this way. Like since 2010, like only 87 running backs have scored at least 250 fantasy points in a season. Like if you dive deeper, nearly 70% of those seasons took place between the ages of 23 to 26. So that's why Chubb's a great player to trade away right now. Then you've got Jerome Ford that's there that can essentially fill the void. And one thing about Ford that I like is that he does have what I would just call like an all-around skill set. I'm like, he's had impressive rushing production in college, scoring ability, receiving upside. I'm like, he really showcased his well-rounded skill set. Like in college, I know he hasn't had a ton of action in the pros, but he's really, I would say really like an enticing prospect, in my opinion, if given like the full workload. So I do see the Browns kind of moving away from Chubb, which really positions Jerome Ford to see an expanded role, assuming that they don't add anyone else, but they don't have Kareem Hunt there. Dearness Johnson's no longer there, so that's where I'm really buying into Ford. So that's my assessment.
Ryan, anything to add? I just like he was good at Cincinnati, and people forget that. Yeah. And then if you want to give him a hard time really about Cincinnati, well, I say he was recruited by Alabama and was at Alabama for the first 2 years, but he was just stuck on the depth chart. He moves over to Cincinnati, and he was over 6 yards per carry, scored 30 touchdowns over his last 2 seasons or whatever. Like the kid can run the football, and I think that we know the Browns are going to run, and they're going to get other people involved. As great as Nick Chubb has been, there have been plenty of other touches available. Yeah. 123 carries for Kareem Hunt last year. If you give me Jerome Ford with 123 carries and the ability to be the RB1 if Nick Chubb were to go down, I want that all day towards the end of my draft. If you're drafting Nick Chubb, I think Jerome Ford needs to be your 14th round pick, 13th round pick.
I think there's one thing to be said here, though, when it comes to distributing your rushing attempts amongst this team, because over the last few years, it's been Nick Chubb, it's been Kareem Hunt. Your RB2 on this team is Deshaun Watson. He's going to be the one that commands those rushing attempts, whereas the last few years, they have not had a quarterback that can run the way that Deshaun Watson can run. I'm not saying that Deshaun Watson's going to go for, like Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts or Lamar Jackson type rushing numbers, but I don't think that 90 rushing attempts is that far out of the realm of possibilities. So that in and of itself is going to lower the pie for what Jerome Ford brings to the table from a rushing perspective. If Nick Chubb still commands, say, even a 55% rushing share, because by all accounts, we're expecting the offense to open up to throw more, which I think would be a very far cry from what Kevin Stefanski has done with this team and as history calls for. But the way that they've reshaped this wide receiver room, they trade for Elijah Moore. You still have Donovan Peoples-Jones. Last year's second or third round pick, David Bell. You add Cedric Tillman. You now have pieces to allow you to spread open this offense to go with Amari Cooper and David Njoku. Maybe they're not running the football 500 times. So
it's a good point.
I like Jerome Ford. I'm with you, Moody. I'm trying to acquire him in Dynasty, just throw-ins and deals because, hey, you never know. And Chubb
you got him off of
there. Exactly. So there's definitely an opportunity there for the price. It's not very, he's not expensive by any means.
Well, I was going to say in Dynasty, there's a whole nother level to it that Moody hit on. And that's that there's no guarantee Nick Chubb is a Cleveland Brown next year. They are in cap hell because of the Deshaun Watson deal. So,
Yeah, it's almost like giving a guy a fully guaranteed contract is probably not the
smart.
Yeah, it's with a $50 million cap hit next year.
Yeah.
I think it actually went
Yeah.
up because of the adjustments they made to this year.
Hey, what do we always say? Bad teams stay bad. Bad
Yeah, I
teams.
mean, they're gonna have to make a lot of changes. Mari Cooper is almost certainly gone next year,
Gotta
and
be.
then you have
That's why I really like that Cedric Tillman pick. I think you could ultimately see Cedric Tillman slide right in to that Amari Cooper role in 2020.
It has the feel, Josh. It has the feel of the AJ Green to T Higgins transition. It really does. So.
Okay. My sleeper I have on here is Donovan Peoples-Jones. I first put Elijah Moore because I'm like, oh, he can't be. He's got to be going like in the 40s or 50s. I'm like, that's good value. I mean, he's at 45, and I didn't like the people. Like, I like the people around him more than I liked him. So
Deciphering that room is tough too.
100%, and that's why here, like Donovan Peoples-Jones is going around Jaden Reed.
Yeah.
Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Jalen Hyatt, Tyquan Thornton. You're looking at 2 rookies, a guy in his second year, and 17 Marquez Valdez-Scantlings on the Kansas City Chiefs roster. DPJ has proven he can play and is a viable threat.
Yeah, absolutely.
So at that point, again, like even the guys further ahead of him, Van Jefferson, I'll give you an argument for Van Jefferson. I do like Van Jefferson, but DJ Chark, Alec Pierce.
Yeah.
These are all, they're all guys who we want to see do something, but haven't quite proven it yet, where we saw a lot out of DPJ last year.
100%.
Yes, exactly.
And then you get up to like Adam Thielen, KJ Osborne. That's fair.
Thielen is so interesting.
Yeah, that's fair. But Elijah Moore is sitting at wide receiver 45, and this is where the would you rather comes in, because I sat there and I put Elijah Moore immediately, and I was like, wow, I would take
all of these guys.
I wouldn't take all of them. I wouldn't take all of them because there's 2 Baltimore receivers here too, and that's another interesting room to decipher as well. So, but the first one, Brandon Cooks is wide receiver 43 right now. Would you rather have Brandon Cooks or Elijah Moore, Moody?
I'd rather have Brandon Cooks.
Ryan.
All day.
Josh.
Brandon Cooks.
It's a crime he's wide receiver 43 right now. Like, that feels so low. Like, he's below Quentin Johnston, Gabe Davis, Jahan Dotson, Kadarius Toney, Treylon Burks. Like, that does not feel right.
The last time Brandon Cooks was the wide receiver 2 on his team, he was the wide receiver 15 in fantasy.
Yeah, it's just it is insane because you're looking at someone who in that Cowboys offense when you look at their wide
throw
receiver
the football
range.
600 times.
Yeah, I'm like
what
he can easily get 110, 115 targets perhaps and be a flex option for you week in and week out. So
yeah, and let's not forget, I think it was 2016 or 2017 when Mike McCarthy had Jordy Nelson, Devontae Adams, and Randall Cobb dominating at wide receiver, and they all had quality fantasy finishes. What do you have here with the Cowboys? Michael Gallup, 1 year removed from an ACL. You just bring in Brandon Cooks, and we've now seen what CeeDee Lamb can do with a quality, healthy target share. They didn't need to retain Zeke. They didn't need to get a quality complement for Tony Pollard. They are going to throw the football, and they're going to throw it a ton this year.
Oh, yeah. Rashad Bateman or Elijah Moore? Moody.
Ooh, now this is truly a difficult one, just given the Bateman
Yes.
news. But I would actually go with like Elijah Moore. I'm just really concerned about Bateman with this cortisone shot, especially this early in the season. So Moore for me.
Ryan.
I don't mess around with injuries. Give me Elijah Moore.
Josh.
I don't mess around with head cases. Give me Rashad Bateman.
So, and that's why I didn't want to put Elijah Moore as a sleeper because I'm like, I don't legitimately know who I would take because I think I would probably go Moore because the Ravens have had the lowest passing, like in terms of passing attempts in the league. So what share is there going to be now with Odell Beckham and Mark Andrews? It's kind of feeling like he's third in terms of target share. So probably Elijah Moore. But then I see Courtland Sutton. Would you rather Elijah Moore or Courtland Sutton? Moody.
Yeah, I would rather have Cortland Sutton. I know there's been a lot of talk about Jerry Jeudy heading into the season, but still, Cortland Sutton's still someone that could at least see around 100 targets. So I'd rather go with him.
Ryan.
It seems like we're so quick to forget that he led the team in targets last year. Like, give me Cortland Sutton for sure.
He led the team in targets, and his quarterback was fucking ass.
Yeah.
That's why he only caught like 40 of them.
Yeah.
I can't quit Cortland Sutton.
No.
And I've literally tried, and I can't do it.
Well, it's funny. I'm running into this issue now in drafts, and obviously it was a dynasty startup where it happened. But I love Sutton, Jeudy, and Tim Patrick where they are, and it's like I can't draft all three of them.
I mean, you can on best ball, but
Tim fucking Patrick, dog. I don't know where he's getting drafted. Wherever it is,
probably. I was gonna say free, but I think he's. It's not quite free. There's
88. Oh, he's free. He's going after Tank Dell. He's free. He's completely free. Oh, you know what? Keep him free. Tim Patrick sucks. Everybody, don't draft him. He sucks. Let me take him. I'm Sutton all the way as well. Sutton is a good receiver. He just happened to have the shittiest form of Russell Wilson ever last year. And finally, Zay Flowers or Elijah Moore, the rookie on the Ravens, or Elijah Moore, Moody.
I'll go with Zay Flowers. I don't have confidence Bateman will last the entire season.
Ryan.
I don't draft 5'9" wide receivers.
Okay. Josh?
I mean, I don't have confidence that OBJ makes the whole season. So that's
another
why
good
So Zay Flowers,
don't
wide
mind
receiver
Zay
1.
Flowers, in all honesty.
And you want to know who's the wide receiver 2? James Prochet.
There you go.
We're on
Joe's dream come true.
I do like Zay Flowers.
You should.
And that's I probably go Zay Flowers.
Yeah, and this
too.
is my biggest thing when you look at, because we've talked about a couple Ravens here in this round of Would You Rather. They've actually changed offensive coordinators, and that coordinator has a history of opening up the passing offense.
Yep.
We're expecting Stefanski to completely reshape what he has traditionally done. That to me is a much harder sell than believing that Baltimore will throw the football more.
Yeah.
Here's one interesting one just as I'm looking down here. Elijah Moore is wide receiver 45. Allen Lazard is wide receiver 51. I'm not vouching for Lazard here, but he is going into a new offense with his same quarterback. And currently, we know how much Aaron Rodgers likes throwing to guys that he trusts and has had rapport with. Allen Lazard or Elijah Moore, Moody. 2 rounds apart.
Yeah, I'd have to go with.
imagine.
I'd have to go with. God, that's tough.
That's why I bring it up.
I would
That's
end
why
up
we
going
play
with
this.
Elijah Moore on that one.
Okay. Ryan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd probably go more just because while I understand the Aaron Rodgers connection, I also think Aaron Rodgers is realizing very quickly how special Garrett Wilson is. So.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Josh.
I really wanted to say, give me the guy, that quarterback that didn't have a 30-something QBR last year, and then I realized that Aaron Rodgers was at 39.3.
Yeah, I was gonna say
but give me the guy that has touchdown upside, and that to me is Allen Lazard.
That's very fair.
I think either way, if Garrett Wilson's wide receiver 1, we know Elijah Moore's the 2, so they're both playing 2s in their offense regardless. I would go Lazard. I'm not telling you that I'm drafting Allen Lazard or actively looking for him, but if he happens to be there, Allen Lazard.
Yeah, I mean, and you basically said it. They're going 2 rounds apart. So
I mean, you can get both of them if you want them.
And that's the thing. You could theoretically get both of them, or you could just pass on Moore and take Lazard and be happy about it.
Yeah, it was just I saw that name get popped up there, and I was like, it feels low for the guys we are having the conversation in, just based off of not so much skill, but rapport with his quarterback and how much that quarterback trusts guys he's played with in the past. My last thing, IDP player note, Grant Delpit. Myles Garrett's the low-hanging fruit. No one really needs to talk about that. Jeremiah Owusu-Karamoah is solid. I don't love him, but he's solid. Zadarius Smith should have a good season because he is opposite Myles Garrett. And they got him for a bag of potato chips and some peanuts.
He rushes the passer much better than Jadeveon Clowney ever did.
Yeah, it's almost like someone and like people should have noticed that sooner on. Fucking Jadeveon Clowney. I make one play against Michigan and knock a player's helmet off, and I'm fucking Reggie White. No, you're not. Okay. I think he's had a single double-digit sack season in his entire career.
I mean, the fact that he is not even on our roster right now tells you all you need to know.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God. Jadeveon Clowney. If he played in the 80s, he'd be great. One of the best run stuffers. But other than that, atrocious. Moody, thanks for coming on, man. Hope you had some fun.
Yeah, no, it was great. Hey, it's always good to hop on and great conversation on a lot of these players. And I'm looking forward to next year when we do this again. And then we'll talk about Nick Chubb once again. Yep. And he's still with the Cleveland Browns.
Now it's going to become a point. You have to come on when we talk about the Browns.
Yeah.
I know. So we got to make it. We got to make it 3 in a row, and hopefully he's on another team at that point. But if he's still on the Browns and he finishes as like a top 5 running back, I will not hear the end of it. I was
going to say, I think no matter what happens, if he is on a different team, we have to have the Browns and that team together and have Moody on that.
Yeah,
we'll
have to do that.
Schedule. I will rearrange the schedule to make that happen.
Oh my God.
So I'm planning to seed for that. But in all seriousness, though, yeah, thanks for the invite. It's always good to talk fantasy football. For those that are watching, I'm like, if you're not already, follow me on Twitter at Eric N. Moody. For ESPN, I cover the NFL, NBA, and WNBA from a fantasy and sports betting perspective. So if you like all those things, a little bit of music talk, and then 1990s, 2000s nostalgia, you'll be right at home. So stop what you're doing and do that right now. But gentlemen, until next time, I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Asia Wilson,
hardest working man in the industry, right there.
Yes.
Asia Wilson or Sabrina Ionescu for the 101 and the WNBA.
Yeah, between those two, you got to go with Asia Wilson. Just considering all the playmakers that the New York Liberty has, usage rate and touches are hard to find. I think that's what we're seeing in fantasy with the Liberty, because
they got
with
Brina's,
ADP and on the ESQ, it's just not there.
They got Brina's teammate at Oregon, right? When they played together, Sabrina. They got Sabrina's teammate she used to play with at Oregon, correct? Thought I saw that on ESPN the other week. Or no, I'm sorry. They were playing against each other. She plays for Dallas. I apologize. That was
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. Yep, that's what I was looking at. Sabrina Ionescu is out of control. Just had to ask that. Want to get that. Look Inside is in full swing. Olave, Treylon Burks up. Deshaun Watson of the Browns still to come. 3 new previews each week. Subscribe to the YouTube page. Of course, Mock It Like It's Hot Mondays at 11. Herstory in the Making. Also on BSN, the Better Sports Network. New episode June 27th. Forgot which month 6 was for a second. Who's Your Caddy is on Tuesdays at 9:30 at night. Dynasty After Party Sundays 9:30 at night. SpongeBob reference. Always remember, defense wins championships, offense wins fantasy football. You can follow Josh at the One Hudsonian, Eric at Eric with a C, N Moody, Ryan at the Fantasy 5, myself at Joe_Zolo, but most importantly at Bismarck Larks, because there is a fun announcement coming at 9 a.m. Central tomorrow morning, where a lot of you boating fans, I imagine, will enjoy the alternate identity we will be going for tomorrow. I can promise you will enjoy it. You can follow Club Fantasy on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Club Fantasy FFL. The URL is clubfantasyffl.com. Always remember, one more time, defense wins championships, offense wins fantasy football. We will see you